Okay, hi Angeline, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's see, where do you want to start? Let me start with your first book. Your first book was called Firekeeper's Daughter, came out in 2021. It was an instant New York Times bestseller, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that. Was that your first book that you put out, or did you have other books prior to that?
No, that was my first one.
Why did you decide to write this book?
Well, I had the idea when I was 18, and then didn't start writing until I was 44. And it took about 10 years to finish a draft that I felt was quality enough to get an agent and then sold the book at auction.
Was there any one particular thing that inspired you to write this book?
Well, my good friend in high school, she went to a different school nearby. And senior year, she told me about a new boy that was in all of her classes, and she thought I might want to meet him. But as the weeks went on, it turned out he wasn't my type at all. He didn't play sports, and he hung out with the hardcore stoners. And at the end of the school year, there was a drug bust, and she told me that it turned out that the new boy was actually an undercover police officer. And so I remembered thinking, what if we had met? What if we liked each other? What if he needed my help? And then just this spark of an idea of why would some undercover drug investigation need the help of an ordinary 18-year-old Ojibwe girl?
Whatever happened to him?
I don't know, but I have a friend who's like trying to track him down.
Okay. How long ago was this?
Oh gosh, I graduated 1983.
Oh, okay, so a considerable number of years.
Yes.
One of your talking points, as long as we're on this subject of years, it says great success came later in life for you. What advice can you share for those who are still struggling?
That it's never too late and decide if you'd rather live with failure or regret. Because I decided that I would rather try and fail than to regret never having tried at all. And that's why I started writing at 44.
I think writing is something that isn't as critical with age as, say, an athlete or a musician or something like that. I think as long as you can write, it really doesn't matter how old you are, yeah?
No, and I do believe that my life experience, my career, so many things made me the writer that I am. And if I had tried to write the story when I was younger, I think I would have tried to force a different ending instead of the ending that was right for the story.
Okay, that's a good point. So the new book, Warrior Girl Unearthed, is this a follow-up book? Is it related to the first book at all, or is it completely a different story?
It's related. It takes place 10 years after the events in Firekeeper's Daughter. It takes place still on, my tribal community on Sugar Island. And one of the 6-year-old twins from the first book is now 16, and she's a reluctant summer intern at her tribe's museum. And I pitched the story as Indigenous Lara Croft, but instead of raiding tombs, the main character is raiding museums to retrieve stolen ancestors and sacred items and bringing them home.
So both of these stories are fiction, but kind of based in reality or experiences that you've had.
Correct. So they're both rooted in issues that I care about. One is, repatriation of our ancestors that are in museums and private collections. And the other is missing and murdered Indigenous people, particularly women and girls.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Why is this such a big problem? I mean, why are there so many?
Well, the key reason is that uh, tribes do not have jurisdiction to prosecute uh, felony and violent crimes on the reservation committed by non-natives. Now, there was the Violence Against Women Act passed an amendment that tribes can prosecute like a domestic partner who's not native, but commits a crime against a native person on the reservation. But it leaves out like predators that purposely come to the reservation knowing that the chances of them getting caught and prosecuted and convicted and sentenced is slim to none.
So if a non-native comes to the reservation lands and commits a crime, they cannot be prosecuted by the tribal court? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Only the federal government has the jurisdiction for major crimes, major felony crimes.
Is it reciprocal as well? If a native commits a crime off the reservation, can they be prosecuted by the U.S. government or local police?
Yes, they absolutely can be prosecuted.
So it's one-sided.
Right. It started out from the Major Crimes Act. I think that was in 1885, and it was under the belief that tribes were incapable of handing out justice fairly to non-native people, and really curtailing jurisdictional authority, and so that's where we're at.
Let me go back to your first book. Do you know what your sales count is at this point? How many have sold?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
But a lot, you know?
A lot. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the new book, is the new book out?
Today.
It's out today. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Give us a little bit more of the story. I mean, don't give it all away, but just give us a little bit more of a teaser, trailer, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. So Harry Firekeeper Birch is this intern, and her boss takes her to a local college museum, and there she meets this ancestor, human remains, and they're from someone that the archaeologists and anthropologists call the warrior girl. And this is based on a true case of human remains, an ancestor that had knife wounds on her that had healed. They can tell from the knitting of the bones. And she was buried with a flint blade, like a substantially sized flint blade. And when a person is buried with an object, it means that item had particular, that meant something to them. And so they called her the warrior girl. And so I have Perry meeting this fictionalized version and deciding that she wants to bring the warrior girl back home to Sugar Island.
What do you think happened to all of the ancestral remains? They just got taken by non-natives and put in glass cases in museums and things for everyone to look at?
Well, I think really it started with that Western movement across the country, and that's when they called them antiquities, Native or Indian antiquities, and regarded as relics of the past, relics of a dying peoples, and so that's when the collecting of artifacts and objects really stepped up. But then also the U.S. government, the Army, did a cranium study, and so people were paid for every cranium that they harvested and sold to the government for these studies. And I believe they said there were 50,000 crania that had, and in some cases, the grave robber would wait for the deceased person's family to leave the grave site, and then they would dig the body up and take the head.
So a lot of the native grave sites were pillaged then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, these are stolen ancestors. Nobody said, please have at my ancestors for research or profit, you know.
I see on here there's something about a Netflix series that's going to be coming out.
So I sold the film rights to Higher Ground Productions, which is the company that was started by Barack and Michelle Obama. And my book was the first project that they optioned for a series. And so I'm really excited about it. And of course, you know, with the writer's strike, things are on pause. But I'm thrilled to see the story on screen sometime at some point.
How much influence or control are you going to have over the story?
Well, I'm an executive producer on the series and also a script consultant. But in terms of like, I don't have casting approval or veto power. But, you know, I will make my suggestions and have ideas for location shoots. But I don't have a final say. You do give up a lot of rights when you sell the adaptation rights.
Is this for the first book or the second book or both?
It's for the first book only.
No, the writer's strike is just sort of happening right now. So did they give you a timeline prior to that?
No.
Any plans for a third book?
I have a great idea, and we'll see where that takes me.
Okay. Not going to give too much away for that, right?
No.
Okay. Well, listen, we're going to wind this down. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
I sure do. So I'm on social media, and also my website is angelineboulley.com.
Okay. And there's links to the book, information about the book and where you can buy it and all that?
Absolutely. And if you have a book club and you'd like me to pop in via Zoom, you can submit that request. Or if you'd like a signed book plate, you know, you can put in an address. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to meet readers. And I hope that everyone loves Warrior Girl Unearthed as much as I do.
Well, Angeline, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was nice meeting you and nice talking to you. Best of luck with everything.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Miigwech. Thank you so much.